Hey guys, Kingpin here. Welcome to the next episode of Franchise Mode. And you know what? I'm thinking there should be an exhibit here, not just a giant pile of dirt. We've had orangutans on our information center since about episode 4, so why not build their exhibit today? These guys are going to be one of the stars of the show, the go-to animal that everybody wants to see when they come to the center of Primate Conservation, so we're going to have to do their exhibit justice today. Luckily, I've got some plans to make that happen. This is going to be a good one. Zoos all over the world use moats in order to make guests feel like they're a lot closer than they actually are to the animals, and we're going to incorporate that into this exhibit today. The key part of this exhibit is going to be the guest center, which is going to be on the bottom here next to this loop. Where you see this little protrusion of the loop, that's going to be an area where you can learn all about conservation, and we're going to put conservation boards and education in there. But the main bulk of the interior is going to be dedicated to inside viewing. On the left side of the exhibit, we're going to have a moat that lets guests get surprisingly close to the orangutans without letting them escape. On the right side, there's going to be glass, which allows guests to see the other animal that we're going to put in the other side of this exhibit, which is yet to be determined. Orangutans are personally one of my favorite animals that exist. I really want to do this exhibit justice, so I'm going to put extra effort into it. This zoo is called the Center of Primate Conservation, and we've already made exhibits for plenty of endangered primates, but orangutans are on an entirely different level of vulnerability. I want to be able to breed a lot of them and release them to the wild in this game. In order to do that, we're going to have them maxed out in wellness. That means this exhibit's going to have to be big enough to where they can properly raise a family, have good plant life, among all the other things that they need. I didn't mention it in the battle plans of this exhibit, but one of the defining features of it is going to be the massive jungle gym that I'm going to build right in the middle for them. Orangutans are an exceptionally intelligent species, so we're going to have to give them lots of stuff to do to entertain themselves, otherwise they're going to get stressed quickly. This jungle gym is going to be a great example of that. They need a lot of climbing space as it is. Think about what the lemurs need, but probably 10 times the size. Let's get started on this build though. This should be a fun one, and I don't think it'll be that difficult. For the color scheme and build palette, I decided to make it sort of a hybrid between a proboscis monkey house and the giant rainforest, which we actually started this zoo with. I think it would be cool to have our buildings all match some sort of color scheme, and I think this would be a great middle ground between the two that we've already built. It's not going to have any stone like the proboscis monkey would, because I want this one to look a little bit more modern, just like the rainforest, but at the same time, it's not going to be as giant as the rainforest. This is only for orangutans and one smaller species on the other side, but mainly for the orangutans. They're an incredible species to have as one of the center points of the zoo, but they're not big enough like elephants to where the centerpiece is going to have to be about 10 miles big. It's just going to be a simple exhibit, definitely the biggest individual one we've put in the zoo so far, but it'll be nice and reserved, we'll say. If you guys have been enjoying this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. The content's not slowing down anytime soon. I really enjoy putting out this type of video for you guys, and I'm not going to stop. That being said, if you do decide to stick around, leave me some video idea suggestions in the comments below. I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say. I try my best to respond to every single comment. Mid-build, I decided to kick this area out a little bit further. That way, whatever animal is going to end up being on the right side of the orangutan enclosure is going to be able to have 2 viewing sections instead of 1, and at the same time, I decided that this, on the orangutan side, could double as their hard shelter. This way, they can escape the elements and come out here and relax if they need to. It'll also give them a bit of privacy, but an area where guests can also view them sleeping. I really like how the proboscis monkey exhibit turned out, but the one thing that I'm not a fan of is how square and boxy it looks. I feel like a common pitfall a lot of new Planet Zoo players fall into, myself included, obviously, is we tend to build a lot of squares and rectangles just because it's the easiest shape to build on a grid. Trying to build a little bit more abstract shapes and have curves in the build definitely is possible, and it makes it look a fair bit more realistic. Think about the last city or even zoo you went to. Not every building is just a big rectangle. Try to incorporate different shapes that mix up the build's looks. It's definitely a challenge. Heck, I challenged myself making this exhibit, but it turned out really nice in the end, and I'm extremely proud of it. I just cut about an hour of recording because I got frustrated with the path, and I eventually had to tear it completely up and make a new one. But it turned out really nice in the end because I got the moat exactly how I wanted it. Sometimes you have to tear up what you already made just to get it even more perfect. I know it sucks and it may be a little bit tedious, but in the end, it'll all be worth it. Just put in that little extra effort whenever you're building something, whether it's in this game or any other sandbox. It'll all be worth it in the end, but as soon as you're proud of your build, it's done. Don't let anybody else tell you what your build has to be. We've got a really long way to go, but I'm pretty happy with how this turned out so far. The biggest wild card is going to be how well orangutans can actually climb. Because as we're going to get to in the education segment coming very shortly, orangutans are the world's largest arboreal animals, which basically means they spend pretty much their entire day in trees to avoid predators, which naturally means they're extremely adept at climbing. So, luckily I didn't make this out of a climbable material. But I'm having a feeling that they might be able to jump over the moat. It's going to be a little bit difficult to keep these guys in, especially since they're so big. A proboscis monkey escaping wouldn't really cause any damage to the zoo, nor our reputation, but orangutans, while peaceful and gentle typically, they're still a highly dangerous animal that could do some serious damage if provoked. Luckily in this game, unlike in real life, although I wish we could do it in real life, we can suddenly stop time so nothing else happens while we fix the mistakes that we made. This is going to be an extremely challenging exhibit to get exactly right. Not only do I care a lot about the orangutans and making sure that absolutely nothing is wrong in their habitat, but them being so big mixed with them being such good climbers, and who knows, maybe they can swim and jump really far too. I don't know. These guys are going to prove to be a pretty big challenge. Let's check your traversable area first. You have low wellness after being in here for 3 seconds. That's a given. You probably don't like all the long grass. Where can you go? Alright, they can't climb up the building, which is good, and they can jump across the moat, which is less good. Luckily, we're going to put rocks and a fence over there just in case, so that shouldn't be a problem if we keep time paused. And of course they can get out over there. They can just walk across the grass. We haven't blockaded that off yet. Okay, not as bad as I thought, but it's still going to be a challenge, because I've never tried to make an exhibit like this before. Let's talk about the orangutans that call this exhibit home now. We've mentioned it a few times in this video, and I even made a community quiz about the fact, but orangutans are the world's largest arboreal animal. Arboreal pretty much just means they spend a majority of their time, and even in some cases, live in the trees. Being so big, you might not think they'd be the best climbers, but you'd be dead wrong. Their giant arm span makes them be able to swing from tree to tree with relative ease. If you recall from the episode about proboscis monkeys, you'll remember the island of Borneo. This is also where orangutans call home. If you remember, the proboscis monkeys typically like to live near the rivers and coast of the island, while orangutans, living in the trees, and they're obviously much larger than a proboscis monkey, they're going to need bigger trees. That's why a majority of the orangutan population on Borneo lives inland. They can dabble into the coast on the southern half of the island, but typically they like to stay near the biggest trees possible, as female orangutans actually build a new nest completely from scratch every night, and this has to house all of their clan, which can sometimes be a couple of babies as well. The males are more solitary animals, going off on their own once they reach maturity at around age 7. If there's one thing to take away from this video, it's that orangutans are extremely intelligent. In the wild, they've been observed using tools such as sticks to extract insects from anthills or other small areas that they couldn't reach otherwise. Despite being solitary, they're still this intelligent. Typically, animals that travel in large groups are the most intelligent, as they can learn from their other kind of their species, but orangutans learn all of this pretty much on their own. Matter of fact, earlier this year in the island of Borneo, a male orangutan was observed to have some sort of injury on its face. A cut, a bite, nobody knows what caused the injury for sure, but matter of fact, the orangutan was so intelligent, it was actually observed using plants known to have healing properties on its face where the injury was. This is stuff that early man hadn't figured out until semi-recently in terms of history, so the fact that orangutans can do this and then pass it down to other children is kind of concerning how smart they actually are. No orangutan in history has better described this than Fu Manchu. In the 1960s in a zoo in Omaha, Fu Manchu lived there with his other orangutans peacefully. One day in the spring of '61, The keepers all left, closed up the zoo, and locked up the exhibits like they did every night, except coming back in the morning, they noticed that Fu Manchu was gone and he was hanging out with his friends in a different enclosure. Naturally, they assumed that somebody just did something stupid and forgot to lock the orangutan exhibit, but that didn't really explain how he got into another one which was also locked, so that must have meant two people had messed up. So the management was not exactly happy with this, but after a lot of apologies, it seemed to be forgiven. That wasn't until literally the very next night when the exact same thing happened. The keepers locked up, and somehow Fu Manchu was out of his cage come morning. This went on for the next week or so, and the management at the zoo was about ready to fire the entire staff. So one day, they looked at the security cameras after closing, and Fu Manchu had actually been hiding a piece of wire in his gums and picking the lock to his exhibit, and then picking the locks to the other exhibit to go back in. He would then put the locks back on the door to make it look like he never actually escaped, and hide the wire back under his gums. That's pretty smart. For being this intelligent, we're extremely fortunate that we're not fruit, because that seems to be all orangutans have any interest in eating. Mostly fruit, they also eat leaves, bark, insects, and sometimes bird eggs, but besides that, they rarely eat any meat. Despite being peaceful and albeit pretty weak for a great ape physically, they're still 5 times stronger than the average man. Yes, 5 times stronger than the average man is weak for great apes. Gorillas are about 20 to 30 times stronger on average. Where an animal like a gorilla relies on its brute force in terms of fights, whether that's for dominance in a clan, whether that's for self-defense, or even hunting purposes, orangutans would much rather fashion a spear from a stick, which they've been observed to do in the wild. They also have a very unique color, but not typically in Asia. Think of an animal from North America that's orange, think of an animal from South America that's orange, or even Africa. It's not exactly easy, but there's a lot of animals in Asia that are orange. You've got red pandas, you've got orangutans obviously, you've got tigers. There's quite a few that I can think of off the top of my head. So this must be deliberate from evolution. Why are a lot of animals in Asia orange? Well, it's simple. Asian animals are orange because they blend more into the trees over there, where if they came over to the Americas, we don't have many orange plants, so they wouldn't really blend in. Orangutans' bright color scheme actually helps them blend into the canopies of the trees in the forest they call home. Sadly, this is actually a problem for them, as deforestation right now is devastating their population, with only about 100,000 of them left in the wild. Their population is also very difficult to save on the human side, as female orangutans actually have the longest interbirth interval of any mammal on the planet, including blue whales, with pregnancies occurring once every 6 to 10 years on average, only delivering 1 child. The lack of children orangutan bear actually makes them better mothers for the ones they do have. While male orangutans typically leave their mothers around age 6 to 7 when they mature, female orangutans sometimes just never leave, hanging around their mothers and raising eventually their grandchildren too. Female orangutans build a nest for their young every single night from scratch, never staying in the same nest for more than a couple of nights at most. Orangutan are highly vocal creatures and use a variety of sounds to communicate over very vast distances of forest, including grunts, barks, and long-distance calls that can be heard from kilometers away to attract mates. They also have an incredibly remarkable memory and cognitive ability and structure, capable of learning complex tasks and problem-solving techniques, along with having a mastery of pattern recognition. Their lifespans are another crucial reason as to why they're so intelligent. Orangutans in the wild can live more than 50 years, while those in captivity can live even longer, so they have plenty of time to accrue a vast amount of wisdom. And then, since their young are staying with them for about 1/5 of their life, they have all of that time to teach them everything they know. This helps them survive. Luckily, orangutan are protected by law in their native countries, but enforcement of these laws can be a little bit challenging due to limited resources and widespread illegal poaching. Orangutan are among the most primary beneficiaries of conservation efforts by humans. We've taken great steps to rehabilitate individuals rescued from the illegal pet trade or habitat loss. The orangutan species is still classified as endangered, and they're not doing amazing in the wild, but humans are trying, and they're doing a lot better now than they have been in recent years. Like humans have empathy for orangutans have actually been observed to exhibit empathy themselves, which is, surprisingly in the animal kingdom, an extremely rare circumstance. They don't just elicit sympathy for themselves, it's other species of animals too. They've been observed to show sadness over other animals losing their lives to predators. Overall, orangutans really have it all. They're strong, they're intelligent, they're compassionate, they're caring, they make great parents. I mean, what else could an animal want? It seems that even early man knew this, as reports from early Bornean societies show orangutan having a significant role in their folklore, almost always being presented as animals that have some sort of mythical connection to the world. They're always peaceful in the tellings too. Orangutans truly never would hurt a fly, both in fiction and in real life. I hope you guys enjoyed that educational segment about the orangutans. It ran on for a really long time, but I hope you guys learned a lot. I know I sure did. But speaking of education, we should probably get these education boards onto the exhibit. These are the final touches. The thing's almost done. The only thing that we have to do now is place a few more education and interactive stations on the inside. Even though this isn't a gorilla exhibit, I'm thinking we can put this height thing on the inside right around here. Maybe we can change the color to make the gorilla orange to match it a little better. And then we haven't placed any of these conservation signs in the zoo yet. I'm not quite sure how they work, but I'm just going to assume they're the exact same as the education board. Let's flip 3 of them together and try to find relevant issues that are facing the orangutans. That would probably be poaching, maybe something like deforestation. I don't know. We'll try and figure that out later, but we also need to put these speakers in. We haven't exactly messed with these speakers yet either. Maybe that's why our education rating isn't the best. We'll keep this one out of sight and just have it playing facts about the orangutan. We'll mess up the settings to make sure it's playing really loudly. Over here we're going back to these conservation things. We can pick up issues that are relevant to the orangutans, we can change the image, we can really do anything. They're really customizable. I kinda like them. I think they increase your zoo's rating too overall. I'm not quite sure how these things work, so let me know in the comments if you guys know a little better. I was struggling to figure out how to detail up the outside of this building, but I'm thinking we're gonna put just a fine little trim with some orange wood over it. I didn't really like the look of the big logs that we've been using. Plus this orange is kind of the same color as an orangutan's fur coat, so I think it'll look really nice and kind of give a good tone setter for this exhibit. We'll just add the trim along the top and the bottom, but maybe we'll make it rounded around the doors. I think this could look really cool. The align to surface feature in this game is truly a godsend. I couldn't imagine playing without it. It would just be so much harder. I'm thinking over here where it would be a little bit complicated to use the small trim, we're going to add these big logs. Luckily the orangutan won't be able to climb these, and I don't think they can jump on the thing from here. Although it is a little close, we might have to check that. But for now we'll just use a big trim of these along the side. That way it'll break up the glass that's technically not connecting and there's some holes in it, which we'll fix later. But we can use these in the meantime just to give a nice little cover up. We'll also do some trims over the doors with the exact same color we used before. That way it'll look a little bit more inviting to the guests that want to see the orangutans. I'm actually extremely happy with how that front turned out. I really like the use of the rope. And check out how cool this exhibit looks now that it's done. Well, not quite done yet. There's still some other things we have to do. Maybe a few more education boards, some facilities around here would be nice. We need some donation bins, some trash cans, some benches. Let's put a few of those in while we're at it. First we'll get a donation bin under each of our education boards. I think that's a must. This video turned out a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. Originally it was going to be probably 15 to 20 minutes, but I figured orangutan being such a central part of the zoo and one of my favorite animals in real life, I figured we'd give them an extra long episode. I think they really deserve it, being as smart as they are, and as interesting as they are too. I learned so many cool facts about them while researching this video. That's why these videos have been taking a little bit longer to come out lately, because I'm spending a lot of time researching the animals in my own time. It's really fun, and I'm actually very much enjoying doing this. But videos will start to come a little sooner. As I get more comfortable editing, videos are going to come out quicker, video production quality is going to go up, and everyone's happy. Okay, I have noticed one slight problem with this exhibit, and it's that the orangutans can in fact jump on the roof. Seeing as that I don't want my guests to get injured by the 500-pound tree monster, I decided to move this entire thing a little bit to the south. But it took a couple of tries, because I kept accidentally recording and clipping a few extra things that I didn't want. This can be a little bit of a clunky system, but I'm glad it's in the game, because rebuilding all this from scratch would be pretty much impossible. This took a really long time to build. I mean, think about how long the education segment was. That was all building this at 10 times speed. Luckily, as I get more comfortable with the game, these errors are a little bit easier to manage. All we have to do now is throw some rocks up here. I kinda like it. It was originally going to be temporary. I seriously just still can't get over the graphics of this game. I mean, look at that proboscis monkey right there. Yeah, way to ruin it, proboscis monkey. I think this is their mating animation. Hopefully it is. I'm pretty sure I heard one of them do their long-distance mating call on the top. I think it was the male. I'll turn that portion in the recording just to be sure. But I would wager that the female is pregnant now. They sound so cute. Let's see if we can't check. No, not the exhibit. No. Come on, get away from that bush. Yeah, that has to be their animation. Come on. Not you. Although it looks like their habitat's pretty much perfect, which is good. Glad they like it here. Yep, our female is expecting. That's great. We'll have one more orangutan. That was a really far jump. Oh my lord. They seem to be really happy here. And I hope the guests like them too. It's a little bit out of the way for anything in the zoo, so there's no guests really hounding the area quite yet, but hopefully they'll come and support the orangutans. The exhibit turned out pretty much exactly how I wanted it. We'll detail it up a little bit more off camera, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. I hope you guys are too. Also, this fence is on the blueprint if you guys are curious. This entire exhibit will be going up on the workshop right after this episode is recorded. By the time you guys are seeing this episode tomorrow, it'll probably already be up there. But that being said, I'm going to shoot some thumbnail shots now, so that is meaning the exhibit's probably done, and the episode's also likely going to be over really soon. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Kingpin out. I'll see you in the next one, coming real soon. Don't forget to leave your animal suggestions for the next episodes, come in the comment section. I really want to do gorillas, chimps, and bonobos next. Those are the 3 that I know for a fact we're going to do. But other than that, I'm all ears. The aquatic pack comes out really soon though, and that's looking tempting.